2025 has been one of the most pivotal years in VGC history, with Pokemon Champions getting announced and us eventually moving over there, to some of the most iconic plays in VGC history. This is the complete timeline of VGC in 2025. January was one of the quieter months for VGC, and we had Birmingham Regionals in England, which was won by William Basilino, using a pretty standard team at the time centered around Miraidon just tearing through his opponents. We did also see 2 Groudon sneak into the top 8, which I don't think we're going to see that ever again. And just like usual, we see Urshifu dominating the top 8. On the same weekend, we also saw a regional in Rio de Janeiro where Calyrex Ice picked up their first win of the season, piloted by Juan Salerno. We also saw a nice mix of Ogerpons in the top 8, seeing Rock get 2nd, 6th and 8th, with base Ogerpon also breaking into top 4. San Antonio regionals happened the weekend after, where we saw one of our first mirror match finals of the year, with both players having Calyrex Ice, Amoonguss, Landorus, Urshifu Water, Ogerpon Fire and Roaring Moon. It was a very strong team at the time, and you can see how good balance is in this format. We saw 4 Calyrex Ice in top 8, a Calyrex Shadow, 2 Koraidons, and a Groudon. There was an Umbreon that made top 4 though. It was this quite silly support build with Foul Play, Taunt, Yawn, and Moonlight. The month ended off with the first global challenge, that being won by Wolfglick, and the second place team used a hard Trick Room team. Madeira Regional was the first event to kick off February, where Daniel Nunez took the title with Dondozo and Tatsugiri. He just looked at this team and went, hey, let's throw 6 hard hitters on the team and it will probably work. And it did. The Miraidon set is quite weird though for today's standards, this one running the Assault Vest, which you don't really expect on this kind of Pokemon. We also saw Chestnut get top 8 for the first and only time of the year. He's not getting top 8, he's not getting top 8 anymore. This Pokemon's not that good. The San Juan special followed this and was won by a Kyogre team, but I want to draw your attention to the 3rd place team here. It's got Sylveon, Meowscarada, Tinkaton, and Galarian Zapdos in this regulation. The big event of this month though was EUIC. It was won by Wolfglick and one of his most iconic teams in the Scarlet and Violet era, using Koraidon when it seemed that other people had given up on it, Screamtail and Gothitelle to form that deadly Perish Trap duo, Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Fluttermane. This is also when he gave his iconic speech.
Honestly, I'm just thinking about the scope. There were 1,400 players who signed up for this tournament, who entered this tournament, the biggest official Pokemon tournament of all time. 1,400 players trained their Pokemon, traveled to London, practiced with a friend, worked on their team. 1,400 people showed up to this tournament hoping and dreaming to win the entire thing. But it wasn't enough!
There we go. We found a thumbnail. His opponent in the grand finals, Dylan Yeomans, was also a complete rookie, having only 1 regional under his belt where he took the exact same team and finished 64th. This was his breakout tournament, and it was on the biggest stage. Both of the Calyrexes dominated, I know, big surprise, with 45% of teams in day 2 having one of them. Miraidon was also seeing a fair amount of love, with Zamazenta following behind. People were starting to figure out which restricteds were the best, and which ones you should just leave in the dark. The top 3 most used Pokemon were Urshifu, Incineroar, and Rillaboom. That core is always meta. It's so good. Top 8, unlike Birmingham, was dominated by Miraidon, seeing 4 of the top 8 trainers using it. The meta was starting to drift and Groudon was completely out of the picture, with his best placement being 131st. Right after EUIC, we got some of the most impactful news for VGC players ever. Mega Evolution is back. Oh, and we also got a Pokemon Battle Simulator where you can play Pokemon competitive battles on your phone, but like, mega Pokemon. This was genuinely so insane for the community, and it meant that we don't have to play Pokemon Showdown on our browser on our phones anymore. This month ended off with a Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Glomora team winning the Global Challenge 2. When March rolled around and the Fortaleza regionals were underway, we noticed that Wolf's EUIC victory had some influence on the community, and there were 2 different Koraidon teams in the top 4. One of them was using Wolf's EUIC team, and the other was leading into this Heavy Sun team mode, with Chiyu Fluttermane, Ogerpon Rock, Incineroar, and a Life Orb Raging Ball. That's the kind of team that just wants to overwhelm you put insane pressure on you, and win in 4 turns. On the same weekend, Lunala picked up its first win of the season on a balanced team at the Vancouver Regionals. Pairing up Indeedee Psychic Surge ability with Lunala's Expanding Force is a deadly combo that you cannot underestimate. Hard Trick Room came in second place, and this one was using a Gallade, which we haven't seen do well all year. It's a nice breath of fresh air, as well as seeing Mienshao get top 8. Rotom Wash also made a run in this tournament. This tournament was open, I thought this guy was washed. That was a terrible joke, I'm so sorry. Joji Kaeda won the Global Challenge 3 with a pretty standard Miraidon Iron Hands team. And on the same weekend, Michael Kelsch won Stockholm Regional with a pretty hard Trick Room team. He showed why Calyrex Ice is still so good, even if nobody in the top 16 was running it. This also seemed to be Heatran's breakout tournament, with him appearing on 2 of the top 4 teams. I want to show some love to some more underappreciated regions, so let's talk about some OCE tournaments that have went on. It was won by Diego Ferreira. By the way, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name. I'm really sorry. I'm really bad with reading names. With the Calyrex Ice plus Torkoal Trick Room team, that also had base Ogabon on it. Mesprit also came 17th, which really caught me off guard when filming this video. New month, new Grand Challenge, same winner, same team. Atlanta Regionals saw a Koraidon mirror match in the finals between Dylan Yu and Joey Woodring. Iron Bundle got 12th, and we saw 4 Koraidons in the top 8. It seems as if people have finally realized how utterly busted this Pokemon is. Malaysia Nationals happened the weekend after, and a Lunala team ended up winning. We saw Monterey Regionals at the exact same time, and then Miraidon plus Iron Crown took the victory. We did also see Tinkaton get second with this Koraidon Sun team. Zamazenta won the Seville Special the week after, and Philippines Nationals was won by Calyrex Shadow. During Philippine Nationals, we did see Kieran White get 1 win away from making Worlds, which honestly would have been crazy. I wouldn't touch that Pokemon with a 50-foot pole. There was also an event in Johannesburg, which I bet you didn't even know that. Kyogre ended up winning paired with Zapdos, which you wouldn't really expect until you realize this guy has Hurricane and Thunder. If the rain is gone, he is missing all his moves. May saw a huge meta shift with the regulation changing from Regulation G to Regulation I, allowing us to bring 2 restricted Pokemon instead of 1. The first event where we were able to see these changes was the Milwaukee Regionals, where we learned that Miraidon might be somewhat strong in double restricted formats. Lunala also picked up in play, being seen on 3 of the top 4 teams. The event after this was the Grand Challenge 4. Federico Camporesi ended up winning this tournament with the same 6 Pokemon we saw win in Milwaukee. Japan and Korea Nationals held their qualification phases on the 11th, and there were many events on the 17th to 18th. So I'm just going to quickly speedrun through them. Melbourne Regionals, Santiago Regionals, Otrich Special, and Thailand Nationals. We then moved on to Portland Regionals, which was the final regional before NAIC. In this tournament we saw 2 Weezings in the top 8, both used alongside Koraidon with the Ability Shield. The winning team did end up being a Kyogre team, paired up with Calyrex Ice and Basculegion with a Life Orb and Kyogre's Rain. This Pokemon is doing crazy damage. Bologna Special came next, and we may have found a new crazy pairing for Worlds. Calyrex Miraidon was on 5 of the top 8 teams. Hong Kong Nationals was also won by Zamazenta and Miraidon. Korea and Taiwan Nationals happened on the same weekend, and we saw 6 teams in the top 8 using Calyrex Ice and Miraidon. This also might be something to watch out for. I was talking about Calyrex Miraidon just being a thing. We gotta watch out for Calyrex Ice plus Miraidon. This is crazy. In Taiwan, Calyrex Ice plus Lunala won, giving us the ultimate Trick Room team. But now, it's time for the second biggest tournament of the year, NAIC. This North American tournament didn't even have any North American players in the top 8. It was actually dominated by Italian players, with 4 Italian players being in the top 8. The grand finals of this tournament was 2 of the Italian GOATs, Marco Silva and Federico Camporesi, and the winning team was a balanced team consisting of a fast mode with Urshifu Water, Whimsicott and Choice Specs Miraidon, and a slow mode of Ursaluna, Lunala, and Incineroar. Chien-Pao had a 17% pick rate on day 1. By day 2, around 30% of teams were using Chien-Pao. So many of the Chien-Pao players in day 1 ended up doing well and making day 2. Raging Bolt had the same thing happen to it, going from 17 to 27%. Grimmsnarl had a pretty big fall off though, being on 21% of teams on day 1, and not even hitting the top 12 in day 2. The top restricted pairs for this tournament were Calyrex Ice Miraidon, Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta, Calyrex Shadow and Koraidon, and Zamazenta and Miraidon, with over 50% of players picking one of the first 3. Some unique Pokemon here were Base Ogerpon getting top 4, Sinistcha getting top 8, and Sneasler getting 22nd. Japan Nationals followed the week after, and the winning pair was Calyrex Shadow and Miraidon. Mousehold also came third in this tournament with a build based on doing damage, showing why Japanese players are the most creative when it comes to team building. The final tournament before Worlds was Singapore Nationals, which was won by a Calyrex Ice and Miraidon team, to the surprise of no one. Swordfish did come second though, which is something I didn't expect to say in the big 2025. There wasn't any tournaments for July, but we did get a new trailer for Pokemon Champions. This one showed a bit more gameplay and gave us some insight into the UI. We also now know we can see our opponent's HP as a percentage. Another huge feature we all love is these EV sliders. We also learned that the release date was 2026, which doesn't really mean much to us. I think most of us just want to play something new because Scarlet and Violet was getting a bit stale. August only had one Pokemon tournament, that being the World Championships, where Koraidon dominated. It had been flirting around the top 8, maybe top 4 a little bit, but this tournament just showed how good it really was. Being on 3 of the top 4 teams, and the grand finals being a Koraidon mirror match just showed how good this Pokemon was. The finals ended up being between Giovanni Sishk and James Evans, and it was one of the best series I've ever watched. So let's break it down. James takes an early lead in game 1 by taking down the opposing Chi-Yu. James then gets a great read by predicting the close combat by Koraidon. Close combat then takes down James's Brute Bonnet, and James brings in Koraidon. He then gets another crazy turn by catching the Brute Bonnet Sucker Punch and switching Calyrex into Incineroar. Giovanni switches Koraidon into Flutter Mane, and James's Collision Course takes down the Brute Bonnet. This next turn is the most pivotal in the whole game. James's Incineroar goes back for Calyrex, Giovanni hits a Moonblast to one-shot the Koraidon, and goes for a Flame Charge into Calyrex, bringing it down to Focus Sash and ensuring that Giovanni's Koraidon outspeeds all of James's Pokemon. Calyrex protects and Koraidon goes for close combat, taking down Incineroar. It's just over from then, and Giovanni takes game 1. Game 2, Giovanni leads Flutterfish, and James leads Incineroar and Brute Bonnet. He puts pressure on the Fluttermane by going for Sucker Punch, and taking 2 attacks from both of Giovanni's Pokemon. James then goes for Knockoff into Chi-Yu, taking away its Choice Scarf. Calyrex comes in and Fluttermane switches for Brute Bonnet. Calyrex protects as Chi-Yu hits a Snout. Incineroar hits Parting Shot into Chi-Yu, and switches into Koraidon. James terrestrializes his Koraidon into Terra Fire, and Giovanni terras his Brute Bonnet into Water. Calyrex Astral Barrage does big damage, and Flame Charge into Chi-Yu knocks it out. Brute Bonnet's Spore hits Calyrex Shadow. Giovanni brings in Koraidon, James protects his Koraidon, and Giovanni tries to predict the Calyrex switch with a close combat. If he gets this read right, it's over for James. Spore goes into Koraidon's Protect. James's Koraidon uses Collision Course and does about 60% to the other Koraidon. Calyrex stays asleep. Koraidon hits Flame Charge into Calyrex and Brute Bonnet puts Koraidon to sleep. Next turn, Calyrex wakes up and hits a Protect. Giovanni uses Close Combat with Koraidon. James's Koraidon survives. Brute Bonnet spores the Calyrex slot. Calyrex switches into Incineroar, and Brute Bonnet can now eat the Citrus Berry it was holding onto. James's Koraidon wakes up and gets to Protect this turn. Brute Bonnet tried knocking out Calyrex with Sucker Punch, but it fails since Calyrex switched out, and Close Combat hits the protected Koraidon. Giovanni protects his Koraidon, Incineroar fakes out Brute Bonnet, and Koraidon Flame Charges the protected Koraidon slot. This game has gotten into a stalemate, and whoever has the next big turn will win this game. Giovanni switches Koraidon into Fluttermane. James's Koraidon protects. Incineroar's knockoff takes down Fluttermane. Brute Bonnet puts Incineroar to sleep. Koraidon is back for Giovanni, and Brute Bonnet gets a Photosynthesis boost. Koraidon tried to double protect. It fails. Brute Bonnet uses Rage Powder, one of the biggest mistakes he could make. Giovanni's Koraidon uses Flame Charge and knocks out James's Koraidon, getting the speed boost and making it faster than the Calyrex Shadow James has in the back. Incineroar stays asleep. Giovanni's Koraidon protects, and Calyrex Shadow goes for Encore? Locking Brute Bonnet into Rage Powder. Brute Bonnet hits a Rage Powder on the next turn, Koraidon hits a close combat and takes Incineroar down. Koraidon also goes down to Incineroar's Rocky Helmet damage, and Astral Barrage takes down Brute Bonnet. We're going to Game 3. Game 3 had the same leads. Flutterfish, Incin Bonnet. Chi-Yu switches for Brute Bonnet and Fluttermane protects. Incineroar's fake out into the Chi-Yu slot does almost nothing, and Brute Bonnet tries to sucker punch Fluttermane. Giovanni terastallizes Fluttermane and Moonblast takes down Brute Bonnet. Incineroar knockoff does minimal damage to Bonnet, but takes away its Citrus Berry. Brute Bonnet puts Incineroar to sleep. James brings in Koraidon and he terrors it. Moonblast does about half to Incineroar and Collision Course takes out Brute Bonnet, and Incineroar stays asleep. Chi-Yu comes back in. Koraidon protects. Fluttermane's Shadow Ball is blocked by it, and Heat Wave does pretty solid damage to Incineroar. He stays asleep. Next turn, Shadow Ball connects with Koraidon, and Heat Wave from Chi-Yu gets a double knockout. Can Calyrex Shadow clutch this? Nah. Giovanni Sish is crowned the 2025 World Champion. To break down the meta, Calyrex Shadow dominated the tournament as well, being present on 5 of the top 8 teams. We did also see 2 Dragonites in the top 8, a Regieleki coming in 10th, and a Ho-Oh team making the miracle run of a lifetime, coming 11th in the World Championships. Out of the 53 teams that made Day 2, 43 of them were using some form of Calyrex, 25 with Shadow Rider, 18 with Ice Rider. The dominance that these Pokemon had on this year cannot be understated. So let's get rid of these Pokemon and go to a more simple format. Regulation H is back. Paradox Pokemon are gone. Legendaries, gone. Restricted Pokemon, gone. None of them are here. The power level of this format is so low. This is also the start of the 2026 season, and it was announced that the 2026 World Championships would be played on Pokemon Champions. We're still waiting for a release date though. Please give me the game. The first event of this season was the Grand Challenge, which I actually competed in. I'm not going to talk about it much here, but if your whole team is weak to Sneasler and Regulation H, you're going to have a bad time. If you want to see a video on that, 100 likes on this video and I'll make sure to do that. Davide Fazio ended up winning with a standard snow balance team that you might see a little bit later on. This is foreshadowing. We then saw our first regional of the format, where guess what won? Snow balance. Yippee! Espathra and Hydreigon did get top 4 though, which I think is pretty cool. Sableye also got top 8. There were some other Pokemon that I wouldn't really expect to do well that made top 16s, so I think that really shows how open this format is. On the same weekend, Monterey Regionals happened, where one of the most iconic teams of 2025 won. Stefan Mott won with Scyther, Incineroar, Goldengo, Sylveon, Alolan Ninetales, and Garganacl. This team is just so out there and unique. I had never seen Garganacl before, I had never seen Scyther before, but it ended up winning the regionals, and it was really amazing to watch. Klefki made top 4, Greninja came 5th. This format was open. The weekend after had the Pittsburgh Regionals, and this one is a little bit more special to me personally, because this is where I fell in love with Focus Sash Basculegion. Chopper Cross ended up winning with Basculegion with Focus Sash. I remember watching his round 7 game against, I think it was Amelia Forbes. That Basculegion mirror match just showed to me how good Basculegion was, how cool Basculegion was, and how much I love Focus Sash Basculegion. We started the month with the Grand Challenge 2, where I personally bought a team very inspired by Chopper Cross's team. I used all of the same 6 Pokemon, I just changed a couple of the movesets. This event was won by a Chilean player, using some common threats like Ninetales, Dragonite, Kingambit, but also spicing it up with Gallade. Milwaukee Regional was next, and this was won by Alex Arand with a mirror match in the finals. This is when Wolfclick also bore his very iconic Zoroark team, finishing with a respectable top 8 finish. We also learned here about Blood Moon Ursaluna supremacy, showing up on 6 of the top 8 teams. Fire Tauros came 21st for the 2 people that care. On the same weekend, what is this place? Belo Horizonte Regional happened, and it was won by another Alolan Ninetales team. Rotom Wash also came 2nd, like, I thought this guy was washed. Okay, I'll stop. We did also see 6 Goldengos in the top 8, establishing him and Blood Moon Ursaluna as 2 of the GOATs of Regulation H. The end of the month saw the Leo Regional happen in France, which was won by Marco Silva, with a pretty iconic team, containing one of the most GOATed Pokemon ever. Toadscrew also got top 8, paired with a Galarian Weezing, which I think is pretty cool. It's mean to play against, but it's really cool. 1 week later, and the Gdansk Regionals were underway. The finals was a mirror match with both teams running Alolan Ninetales balance. Is anyone getting sick of this now? We did see a Blaziken come 7th, if that makes things fun, and a Charizard Trick Room team being piloted to top 8 as well. Brisbane Regionals was on at the same time, and Kilowattrel Balance won over there. Grand Challenge 3 happened and Wolfclick won another tournament, but I was more focused on what happened the week after. Las Vegas Regionals. This was won by Dylan Salvanera in one of the closest series you will ever watch. It all came down to a final turn freeze. I have a full video breakdown of that series if you want to go watch that. It will be in the description and on the end screen of this video. Buenos Aires Special Cup also went on, and a pretty standard team won. But Ludicolo did make top 4, and then we get to the biggest event of the 2026 season so far, LAIC. This was a very special tournament for the Japanese community, since it was the first international event that a Japanese player had won. Yuma Kinugawa won with a Fast Sun team with Flamigo on it. Blood Moon Ursa was also on all the top 4 teams. What do we expect at this point? On the final week of November, we saw the Stuttgart Regionals, where Lucas Saribelli won with a Fast Sun team, using 5 of the same Pokemon that were on Yuma's LAIC team. And that's it. There are no tournaments in December because of the Christmas break, but the next event will be Toronto Regionals in January, followed by Birmingham and Madeira at the end of the month. I will personally be at the Birmingham Regionals competing in my first regional, so look out for a video about that. 2025, as I said earlier, has been one of the most influential years of VGC, and I'm so excited to see the direction that this game goes into when Champions comes out. If you want to see the analysis of the finals that I talked about earlier, click the video you see right now and subscribe for more content like this.